for driving business.
Hello and you're welcome to Business Today. My name is Rona Nahabwe with Winnie Wiiza Nakaochi on the sign language. It's exactly 58 minutes past 8 and it's the 2nd of September. It's a new month, new blessings. To begin with, analysts agree that Uganda's informal economy has been expanding since the 2000s. This is as a result of the growing labor force, particularly among young people who cannot be absorbed by the formal sector. Action for Liberty and Economic Development has held an economic audit to increase the economic freedom of the people in Uganda. We have more.
Studies have linked Uganda's sizable informal sector to the absence of other sources of income as a result of the formal sector's failure to accommodate the country's rising number of job seekers. Additionally, aggravating the problem of informality are the qualifications needed to work in the official sector. The number of new businesses and trade names registered has been dropping annually from 70,814 in 2017 to 2018 to 60,336 in 2019 to 2020, according to the Uganda Registration Service Bureau.
A micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. And the previous speaker mentioned why. If you have a punitive, it's obvious. You know, this morning I was meeting people. If it's obvious that when I start a business, you punish me, and when I grow big, you put all the taxes in my direction, I'd rather have 10 small businesses, isn't it? I'd rather have 30 small businesses, isn't it? That's why we all have very many small things. We call them side hustles. You have rentals, you have a shop, you have a small supermarket, but you can never allow any one of those to grow so that it's very visible. Because once it is visible, the taxman will spend half of the month in your business. Isn't it true? Yes, we know, you know, we can come here and discuss all these sophisticated things, but ultimately, that's what it boils down to. So we have micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises that are making less than 360 million every year. The bulk, 93%. 93% of our businesses are micro. And it's easy. When you get out of Munyonyo, you find that you have Munyonyo here. But when you look around, you find small business owners, a shop next to Munyonyo, this, a cobbler, boda boda, washing bay, and so on. Micro businesses are the bulk. And we have a huge informal sector. So our task should be, how do we support businesses, therefore, to graduate from being informal?
The absence of ethics and transparency from the regulators themselves, according to some analysts, is to blame for this.
Vision 2040 is, we want to reach somewhere in a 40-year time frame. We want to be a transformed Ugandan society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years. That was then, 2010, I think, thereabout. That's our vision. Now, the beauty with having a vision is that you know exactly where you are going. And if you're not moving, or if you're not moving fast enough, it's a very important thing to sit down and assess. How am I doing? How am I progressing? And so on. The challenge we find, especially as a person, John, is that as a country, we like moving goalposts. We are happy to move.
Since the informal economy operates outside the scrutiny of the tax structure, a sizable informal sector represents a structural restriction of revenue growth.
An email from URA demanding taxes. You have not even started making profits. As you grow, more taxes are applied on you. It does not incentivize you to grow. You rather remain micro and informal. So the business environment is not looking at the production part of taxing production. No, they're looking at you as an individual because you exist. They start doing that. And I think for SMEs to grow up and become big multinationals, they need that environment whereby you are not like penalized because you are growing, you are doing well. But the government needs to hold you so that you can grow. And all companies across the world, successful companies, have been helped by their governments.
The economy continues to bear a heavy burden from the absence of corporate formalization. Rona Nahabwe, Andrew Barije, Smart 24. Business Today.
The achievement of the SDG 4 depends on every child attending school and studying. To improve education system in Uganda, educators have established the novel concept, Star Education. A teacher change program whose goal is to establish a welcoming environment for both teachers and students, resulting in enhanced foundation learning outcomes. We have more.
Star Education is an education system strengthening program for both primary and secondary education portfolios to enable learners and teachers to have a changed mindset toward education. As schools prepare for third term, the government, through the Ministry of Education, reviews how they are focusing on consolidating learners through different programs like Star Education to fight misconceptions that learners face in class.
Is to consolidate learning from the past 2 terms. As the Ministry of Education and Sports, we commend your great leadership in supporting our head teachers and learners to embrace growth in mindset by role modeling in your day-to-day work. You have inspired and trained, coached and mentored your head teachers and teachers to prioritize and to incorporate strategies to promote gender inclusion, in addition to identifying and addressing learners' misconceptions in class.
Where teachers love teaching and children love learning. We think that is important because, especially for Uganda, specifically post-COVID, we are seeing a situation where we are having teachers who are having challenges because of socio-emotional issues. But not just teachers, but also school managers like head teachers, going up to DOs and inspectors of schools, up to the national level, where we're having challenges of, do teachers, for example, love teaching? And that would fit into the issues that we are seeing so far. But also at the learner level, we're having children that have come from COVID with socio-emotional challenges, among others, which have caused strikes, which have caused other behaviors in schools, like drug abuse and all that.
A lot of strategies, and more so, there is that of mindset change and intrinsic motivation for teachers. When teachers put into practice these strategies that are brought on board by STAR, no learner will be left behind. And all learners will be interested in their learning. Even teachers will like their teaching. Always when you teach, when learners are benefiting and showing you that learning is taking place, you also get excited and it motivates you naturally.
Teachers are advised to engage students more in a support growth mindset and gender responsiveness. The focus is to consolidate learners for the past 2 terms. Naomi Mtumba, Business Today, Smart 24.
Moving on, in a response to a drop in AIDS donor funding, the government is expected to make the AIDS Trust Fund active. In their report on August 18th, members of parliament noted that the country had lost important donors, including the governments of Ireland and Denmark, which has contributed to a financing gap of $457 billion in the fiscal year 2021-2022. We have details to this report.
Since donors who have been providing 80% of the finances for the battle against HIV have been contributing less, the Parliamentary Committee on HIV/AIDS has lately reported an increase in infections and fatalities. According to the research, the lack of funding combined with the delays caused by COVID-19 had an impact on outreach efforts, condom distribution, HIV testing and treatment, leading to an increase in new infections from 38,000 in 2020 to 54,000 in 2021. It's time, according to Dr. Sarah Kanakwa, Chief of Resource Mobilization at the Uganda AIDS Commission, for the government to put policies into action.
So generally, there is a lot of things that we must do as a country, but what is very clear is the funding for HIV from all sources, that is government of Uganda, development partners, private sector, is not meeting the need. The need is expanding, and this is why we are saying resourcing for the HIV is dwindling, it's going low. And so that discussion of the AIDS Trust Fund has resumed, because once we have this, the AIDS Trust Fund with that 2%, and then we have the 0.1% from the mainstreaming. You see that we are collecting, we are trying to identify. You're basically identifying pots where you can be able to pull and put in the consolidated fund for HIV.
According to reports, the decrease in donor support is a result of global hiccups in the global economy. Security and climate change have become major concerns on the international scale. Because of this, the government is devising various plans because it cannot afford to keep the well-being of 1.4 million Ugandans living with HIV in a precarious position at the mercy of foreign donors.
Now, it's been nearly 7 months after the long-serving incumbent, Dr. Tumusiime Emmanuel Mutebile, passed away. Ugandan President Museveni still hasn't named a new governor of the central bank. Since January, there has been an interim governor leading the Bank of Uganda. We examine the impact on the nation of the vacancy in a key financial position.
What is taking so long to get a replacement of the late governor of Uganda? But we think the people who represented us when they were drafting the constitution found it very vital to have a full governor and then the deputy.
Dr. Martin Eting Ego, who was the deputy governor during Mutebile's tenure, is now the acting governor.
In the acting capacity, there are issues which someone in acting capacity can at times fear to execute. But, it's overdue to get a replacement. We need someone in full capacity.
Recently, the central bank released a report which revealed an increase of the central bank rate from 8.5% to 9%. This has made speculations of lack of a permanent governor is affecting the country's financial decisions.
There is no way now the Bank of Uganda can come out and say, because the price of posho and beans is so high, let us put measures to restrict traders from borrowing from commercial banks. Because the measure the Bank of Uganda is implementing is restricting us to borrow money from the banks. So it makes loans very expensive. And what is again puzzling us? When they are promoting local borrowing of the government, so we are competing with the government. It's like the government is failing us to borrow so that they can borrow money.
The following individuals have served as governor of Bank of Uganda since the institution was founded in 1966. Joseph Mary Mubiru, 1966 to 1971. Moses Semiano Kinji, 1971 to 1973. Onej Obel, 1973 to 1979. Henry Kajura, 1978 to 1979. Gideon Nkojo, 1979 to 1980. Leo Kiwirango, 1981 to 1986. Suleiman Kigundu, 1986 to 1990. Charles Chikonyogo, 1990 to 2000. Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebire, 2001 to 2022. Now Uganda awaits to see the next governor. Monica Nabionga, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Moving on to modern farming, the International Crane Foundation, along with the Ruchiga district officials, have started working with the residents to dig trenches up the hills to break and reduce the velocity of running water to protect the waters. This is in a way to reduce the heavy rains in the mountainous sections of the Ruchiga district. Let's get the report.
The level of erosion in the region has caused losses in crop plantations, including onion plantations and devastated banana plantations as a result of the high rains in the Ruchiga districts. The locals have consistently requested aid from the government. The trench digging initiative by the International Crane Foundation in the villages of the Ruchiga district is thus a blessing for the locals. Emmanuel Ariho, the Ruchiga district environment officer who participated in the campaign, has urged the villagers to constantly take into account activities that don't harm the environment, including modern farming and tree planting, particularly in hilly areas, to regulate the velocity of running water.
From people getting to be aware of these disasters and getting to know the skills how they can actually stop these disasters. Because we as the district, as stakeholders, that's what we are doing as now. Because people need, for example, they need trap water in their roofs, in their homesteads, so that they reduce that water that is flowing over the topsoil. Two, they need to plant trees, and actually plant these best trees which can help in agroforestry. You know, there are those trees which can be planted together with crops. These people need to understand that they need to practice good methods of farming through fertilizer application, so that when soils are rich in fertile, are rich in fertility, then they cannot be taken away by running waters as such, because the soil particles are binding together. And two, of course, they need to come on board and engage in these community gatherings, and they help in the construction of Fanya Chinya and Fanya Ju, so that they can be put on board.
Fiona Orishaba, the Worldwide Crane Foundation's field representative for southwestern Uganda, says that the organization has a soil and water conservation campaign aimed at preserving the safety of the uphills and preventing erosion from dumping garbage in wetlands.
We have an initiative called Soil and Water Conservation to keep the uphills safe. We have found out that when rain comes, it washes away the topsoil as it goes down to the wetlands, and it covers the whole wetlands, which wetlands are the breeding places of the cranes. We have come up with the sub-county leaders and the local council leaders to work with their community members, so that we dig trenches up hills, and then we plant napier grass at a later stage, so that we control this soil erosion, so that we conserve soil on the uplands, so that it becomes productive for the community.
Locals are advised to always clean up the trenches to keep them from becoming clogged.
Today I appreciate the people of this part of Gwamushu sub-county, Ibumba area, and also I appreciate International Crane Foundation for the good work done, providing the tools, providing these reeds, providing everything, and the encouragement that their staff give. I call upon the people of Ibugwe in Gwamushu sub-county to make sure that they maintain these trenches dug the commonly known as the fanya chini, so that they can keep stopping the running water from washing away the topsoil. And also these reeds that you have planted today, they can stop the running waters. They can also be used as feeds to the animals. They can be used as building materials and many other uses.
We would appeal or wish the community that they cooperate with us, and they always do the digging of trenches on a daily routine so that they conserve their soil. And when others come in, they come as only supporters. For example, they should also bring the equipment from their homes in addition to what we have brought to them. We have brought them so far 58 fork toys and 59 pickaxes plus like 40 spades plus axes.
The majority of the agriculturally fertile Kigezi Highlands have severe crop losses and food insecurity as a result of seasonal mudslides during rainy seasons, which inflict extensive land devastation and soil erosion, as well as losses to people, plants, and animals.
Let's talk about the tourism industry. The economy is boosted by tourism, which also generates thousands of jobs, improves a nation's infrastructure, and fosters cross-cultural understanding. The tourism industry in Uganda is mostly influenced by foreign visitors. Bronia Katusime reports on this.
Uganda is endowed with a wide range of tourism resources, including biodiversity, varied landscapes, and cultural and religious heritage. Although tourism resources in Uganda are varied, the most significant attention is currently pointed to the country's landscape and wildlife because they are the considerable employment, investment, and foreign exchange source. The tourism sector in Uganda accounts for 7.8% of the total GDP and 6.7% of the total employment, creating close to 700,000 jobs.
Ways an individual can embrace tourism. We could look at it from an investment perspective. How should people invest in tourism? Definitely, we encourage people as an association, we encourage different Ugandans to invest in this sector along different value chains. You can invest in as a tour operator, you can come in as an investor in the accommodation sector, you can invest in the stopovers, you can invest in the sports facilities, because there's what we call sports tourism. So investing even in the sports facilities itself is also encouraging tourism. You can invest in transporting you can invest in very many restaurants. So there are so many open value chains where you can invest. You can invest in the export of our natural crafts, okay? So there are so many places where you can invest in tourism. You can invest in the development of the remote.
It has been a little bit expensive until youth-oriented travel companies came into the picture, but now it's affordable. You find a trip of 280 to Makshon Falls for 3 days, trips that were 600K that most youth couldn't manage to raise, because we believe this country is 70% made up of the youth, of which 70% of the 70% are unemployed. So how will they embrace tourism if they're unemployed? You make the fares a little bit affordable for them. And when you make fares a little bit affordable, one tries it out as a test. So when they tried out, like moving to Makshon, I would say, no, this trip I'm just going to try it out. Now, when you take them to Makshon and give them that good experience, they develop a spirit that they will even travel by themselves.
The number of tourists seeking Uganda safaris on their travel plans dropped by almost 80% in 2020 and 60% through 2021. Uganda's number of foreign arrivals was at a level of 473,000 in 2020, down from 1.54 million the previous year. This is a change of 69.35%. Richard Kawere gives more insight into foreign tourists' advantages to Uganda.
Contribution to GDP. We can step backwards historically, maybe 1 or 2 years back. Before COVID, the tourism industry was the highest foreign exchange earner to the economy of Uganda, posting 1.6 billion US dollars into the economy. If you look at statistics, it was averaging around 6.3 in terms of employment, majorly youth, and contributing almost about 20% in terms of export value. So before COVID, if you looked at the tourism industry, that is, you would see an industry that was so promising to transform the economy. And that is why I think government, in its strategy to transform the economy, highlighted it as one of the key growth industries. But fast track 2022-2021 during COVID, the value of the tourism industry dropped to 0.5 US billion from 1.6. Discussion that has been ongoing, domestic tourists versus the foreign tourists. It is true that a foreign traveler or a foreign tourist in this country as an individual contributes home. Because even if you go to look at the fees we pay, a Ugandan pays 20,000, a foreigner pays $40 for the same service. So if you compare 20,000 and $40, you'd see actually how many Ugandans you need to earn revenue from one tourist, which is $40. So what happens is that it is for us to earn the foreign exchange, we need to market aggressively to bring in as many foreign tourists as possible, because their net value is high. Okay? On average, per day, a foreign tourist in Uganda spends between $350 to $400 US per day. Where does this money go? Accommodation, meals, and transport.
Regardless of its contribution to the country's GDP, Ugandans dealing in domestic tourism have expressed some of the problems they face while carrying out their businesses.
Very many companies are reporting business. The only challenge is that the business they have today is business that was booked a year or 2 years ago. The catch right now is that business that was booked in 2020, 2021, even some of it in 2019, is being operationalized or actioned in 2022 when the prices of almost every aspect has doubled. So the current problem is that even if the two companies, even if the different business entities in tourism are receiving some number of visitors coming in, the impact, the value is being washed away by the inflation. A very good example is that you know that tourists normally use means of transport. And means of transport means fuel. A liter of fuel, just a cup last year, was at 3,850, a liter of petrol. Now it is closing to 7,000 shillings.
Tourism contributes towards the complete growth and development of a country. One, by bringing numerous economic values and benefits. And second, by helping in building the country's brand value, image and identity. The tourism industry goes beyond attractive destinations to being an important economic growth contributor. Bronia Katsime, Business Today, Smart 24 TV, driving business.
Business Today will be right back after this short commercial break.